The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched so far that its ceiling disappeared into artificial clouds. Towers of crystal rose from the floor, each one holding a representative of the ancient species who ruled the galaxy. The chamber had stood for 10,000 years, and in all that time it had never witnessed a judgment quite like this one. Director Chenzhou stood in the center of the chamber, a small human woman surrounded by beings that towered over her. Some of the council members floated in tanks of liquid methane. Others existed as pure energy contained in magnetic fields. A few were so alien that human eyes could barely process their shapes. But they all shared one thing. They looked down at humanity with disappointment and anger. The human species stands accused. Architect Prime Velnath announced. The crystalline being voice resonated through the chamber like wind chimes in a storm. Velnath was old. So old that Earth had still been covered in dinosaurs when this creature first took its seat on the council. You have violated the Accord of Peaceful Expansion 17 times. You have weaponized technologies that were marked as forbidden. You have colonized star systems that were declared off-limits to junior species. Chen felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her face neutral. Behind her, the small delegation of human officials stood silent. They had prepared for this moment for months, but now that it was here, the weight of it pressed down like a physical force. "We have the right to defend ourselves," Chen said. Her voice carried through the chamber, amplified by technology she didn't understand. "When the Vin Raiders attacked our colony on Tau City, the Council did nothing. When the Mother Swarm consumed 3 of our agricultural worlds, you told us it was natural galactic processes. We had to adapt or die." A sound like grinding stones echoed from one of the towers. It was laughter, Chen realized with a chill. The Vin representative, Warlord Kresh, found her words amusing. "The weak always make excuses," Kresh said. His 6 arms gestured dismissively. "My people raided your worlds because you were easy prey. If you cannot defend what you claim, you do not deserve to keep it. That is the way of nature. That is not the way of civilization," Chen shot back. "Or so we thought when we joined this council. We were told there were rules, laws, protection for all species, large and small." Velnath's crystalline body pulsed with light. "The rules exist to maintain order, to prevent chaos. Your species joined the council only 80 years ago. You are children. In galactic terms, children must accept guidance from their elders." "We're not children," Chen said. The words came out harder than she intended. "We're a sovereign species with the same rights as any other rights." A new voice entered the conversation. This one sounded like music, beautiful and terrible at the same time. The speaker was Ambassador Lyra, of the Melodian Chorus, a species that communicated through complex harmonies. "You speak of rights while you tear through the galaxy like a wildfire. In 80 years, you have spread to 247 star systems. It took my people 1,000 years to claim that much space. Perhaps your people moved too slowly," Chen said. The chamber erupted. Voices overlapped in a dozen languages and communication methods. Some of the council members expressed shock. Others showed approval. A few simply watched with the cold calculation of beings who had seen thousands of species rise and fall. Velnath raised one crystalline appendage, and silence fell instantly. "You see the architect," Prime said. "This is why we are here today." Humanity refuses to accept their place. They question authority. They push boundaries that were set for good reason. They innovate without considering the consequences. "Innovation is not a crime," Chen said. "It is when that innovation threatens the stability of the entire galactic community." Velnath replied. 3 months ago, human scientists on the research station Prometheus developed a quantum weapon capable of destabilizing stars. Do you understand what that means? One ship with that weapon could commit genocide on a scale never before seen. "We never deployed that weapon," Chen protested. "It was purely theoretical research. Theoretical research that your military immediately classified and began working to weaponize," Velnath said. "We have evidence of this. The Council's observers have been monitoring your activities closely." "Well?" Chen felt a cold anger building in her chest. Spies. The Council had been spying on humanity's private research, but she couldn't let her emotions show. "Not here, not now. Every species in this chamber has weapons of mass destruction," she said carefully. The Vin have planet crackers. The Melodians can broadcast harmonics that drive entire populations insane. The Xanthid Collective has biological weapons that make our worst nightmares look tame. Why is humanity held to a different standard? Because those species earned their weapons over millennia of careful development. Velnoth said, they proved they could be trusted with such power. Humanity has not. You are reckless, aggressive, unpredictable. These traits made you successful on your home world, but they make you dangerous in the galactic community. The words stung because there was truth in them. Humanity had expanded fast, maybe too fast. They had pushed into territories other species had avoided. They had developed weapons and technologies at a pace that frightened their neighbors. But what choice did they have? The galaxy was not a friendly place. Species that moved too slowly got conquered or absorbed. Species that showed weakness got exploited. So what are you proposing? Chen asked, though she already knew. She had seen this coming for months. Economic sanctions, limitations on our expansion, forced technology sharing. We are proposing exile, said. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Chen felt the blood drain from her face. Behind her, she heard one of her aides gasp. Exile, she repeated, not quite believing what she was hearing. You can't be serious. The Council has debated this matter for 6 standard months, Velnoth said. We have reviewed every aspect of human behavior since you joined the galactic community. We have consulted historical records of other aggressive species. We have considered every alternative. The conclusion is unanimous. Humanity must be removed from Council space. Where would we go? Chen demanded. You control 90% of the habitable galaxy. Are you sentencing 20 billion humans to death? We are giving you a chance to survive on your own terms, Velnoth said. By the veiled reaches lies unclaimed space. It is dangerous, yes, filled with gravitational anomalies and dark matter storms, but it is vast. If humanity is as adaptable as you claim, you will survive. If not, the crystalline being body pulsed with light. That might have been a shrug. Then perhaps the galaxy is better off. Chen looked around the chamber, searching for allies. A few of the council members wouldn't meet her gaze. Others stared at her with expressions that ranged from pity to cold satisfaction. No one spoke in humanity's defense. How long do we have? She asked quietly. 30 standard years to evacuate all human presence from council space, Velnoth said. That includes all 247 colony worlds, all research stations, all military installations, and all civilian ships. After that deadline, any human presence in Council territory will be considered an act of war and dealt with accordingly. 30 years to move an entire civilization, Chen said. That's not enough time. It is more than generous, Velnoth replied. Other species proposed 10 years. Some suggested immediate deportation. 30 years is a compromise. Chen felt the weight of 20 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. She thought about Earth, the cradle of humanity, which would have to be abandoned. She thought about the colonies, some barely established, where people had invested their whole lives building new homes. She thought about the children born on distant worlds who had never seen Earth, but considered those planets their true homes. Can we appeal this decision? She asked, knowing the answer. The Council's judgment is final, Velnoth said. There is no appeal process for matters of galactic security. Chen took a deep breath. She had one card left to play, though it was a weak one. If you exile us, you create an enemy. Humanity will not forget this. We will not forgive it. You're taking everything we've built and throwing us into the void. What happens in 50 years? 100? What happens when we come back stronger? The chamber fell silent. Several council members stirred uncomfortably, but Velnoth's crystalline body remained perfectly still. If humanity returns, the Architect Prime said slowly, they will find the council ready to meet them. We have defended the galaxy for 10,000 years against threats far greater than one angry species. We are not afraid of you, Director Chen. We are simply tired of dealing with you. The words were delivered without emotion, which somehow made them worse. Chen realized in that moment that the council didn't hate humanity. They didn't fear humanity. They simply found humanity inconvenient, like a persistent problem that needed to be removed. I have one last statement, Chen said. Her voice was steady now, cold and clear. You judge us for refusing to stagnate. You punish us for daring to grow faster than you think we should. You exile us for having the audacity to defend ourselves when you would not. Fine. We'll go. We'll take our 20 billion people and our 247 worlds and our dangerous innovations, and we'll build something new out in the void. She paused, making sure every council member was listening. But history will remember this moment. History will remember which of us was wiser. You sitting here in your ancient chamber, clinging to rules that are 10,000 years old, or us, willing to face the unknown rather than accept a cage, no matter how gilded. Chen turned her back on the council, a gesture of disrespect that would have gotten her executed in some cultures. Her delegation followed her as she walked toward the chamber's exit. The massive doors opened before them, revealing the corridors of the council station beyond. Behind her, Velnoth's voice echoed through the chamber one last time. 30 years, Director Chen. Not one day more. Chen didn't respond. She kept walking, her mind already racing ahead to the monumental task before her. 30 years to evacuate an entire civilization. 30 years to prepare humanity for exile in the most dangerous region of known space. 30 years to transform from refugees into something else entirely. The doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder. In the chamber, the council members began to discuss other matters. Already moving on from the human problem, they had made their decision. They had protected the galaxy from a dangerous, unpredictable species. In their minds, they had done the right thing. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. As Chen walked through the corridors of the council station, past representatives of a dozen species who now looked at her with pity or contempt, she made herself a promise. Humanity would survive this. They would adapt as they always had. And someday, somehow, they would prove the council wrong. The exile would not be humanity's end. It would be their beginning. The first ships left Earth 3 months after the council's judgment. They were massive generation ships, each one carrying 200,000 people, and everything they would need to survive for decades. Behind them came the colony arcs, slower but more heavily loaded with equipment, frozen embryos and seed banks. Military vessels formed protective rings around the civilian ships, their weapons charged and ready for any attack. No attack came. The council kept its word on that much. At least they gave humanity safe passage out of council space. Though they made sure to watch every step of the journey, council observers tracked every ship, counted every person, and made detailed records of everything humanity took with them into exile. Captain Sarah Kim stood on the bridge of the generation ship Perseverance and watched Earth shrink in the view screen behind them. She had been born on Earth 32 years ago, had spent her whole life there until joining the Exodus fleet. Now she was watching her homeworld disappear, knowing she would never see it again. Captain, we're receiving distress calls from the second wave. Her communications officer reported. 3 colony arcs are experiencing engine malfunctions in the Mars orbital path. They're requesting assistance. Quote. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. It was starting already. The council had given humanity 30 years to evacuate, but they hadn't offered any help. Every ship, every piece of equipment, every resource had to come from humanity's own reserves, and those reserves were stretched thin. Dispatch repair teams, she ordered. Have the Memphis and the Shanghai slowed down to provide support. We can't afford to lose those arcs. Yes, Captain. The Perseverance continued its journey outward, past Mars, past Jupiter, toward the edge of the solar system where the rest of the fleet was gathering. Sarah had seen the projections. 20 billion people would need to be moved. The fleet would consist of over 10,000 major vessels and countless smaller support ships. It would be the largest migration in human history, and they were heading into the veiled reaches, a region of space that no sane species would voluntarily enter. Sarah pulled up the data on her console, reviewing what little information humanity had managed to gather about their destination. The veiled reaches were a massive region of space between the galactic arms filled with dangerous anomalies. Dark matter storms could tear a ship apart in seconds. Gravitational whirlpools created by collapsed stars made navigation nearly impossible, and scattered throughout the region were the ruins of dead civilizations. Species that had tried to claim that space and failed. It was a death sentence, disguised as exile. But it was also the only option humanity had. The first year of the Exodus was brutal. Ships broke down constantly. Food production systems failed. Water recyclers malfunctioned. People got sick, and medical supplies ran low. Worse, morale began to crumble as the reality of their situation set in. They were refugees, with no home to return to, heading into unknown dangers, with no guarantee of survival. Sarah spent most of her time dealing with emergencies: a fire in the hydroponics bay, a hull breach in Section 7, a violent fight between two families competing for limited resources. Every day brought new problems, and every problem had to be solved with limited tools and stretched supplies. But humanity adapted. They always adapted. Engineers worked miracles with broken equipment, finding ways to repair systems that should have been unreapable. Doctors developed new treatments, using limited medicines. Agricultural specialists modified crop growth patterns to work with less water and energy. People learned to live with less, to cooperate more, to see the entire fleet as one extended family fighting for survival. 5 years into the journey, something unexpected happened. A research vessel, called the Galileo, exploring ahead of the main fleet, discovered a derelict station floating in the void. It was enormous, easily 5 times larger than any council station, and it was old. Analysis suggested it had been abandoned for at least 50,000 years. Dr. Marcus Chen, the lead scientist aboard the Galileo, sent back excited reports. The station's technology was unlike anything humanity or the council had ever seen. Its power systems still functioned, drawing energy from the fabric of space itself. Its computers, though damaged, contained vast databases of information, and its construction methods suggested a level of advancement far beyond what the council had achieved. "This changes everything," Marcus said during a video conference with the fleet's leadership. His face filled Sarah's screen, his eyes bright with excitement, despite the exhaustion that showed in every line of his face. Whoever built this station was playing with physics in ways we've barely theorized about. If we can understand even a fraction of their technology, we might actually have a chance out here. Sarah felt a flutter of hope in her chest. The first real hope she'd felt in 5 years. How long will it take to study? Years, Marcus admitted. Maybe decades. But we have to try. This could be the key to our survival. The fleet leadership made a decision. A portion of the Exodus fleet would continue deeper into the veiled reaches, searching for a suitable location to establish a permanent home. The rest would remain near the derelict station, studying it and trying to unlock its secrets. Sarah volunteered to stay with the research group. The Perseverance became a mobile base of operations, with engineering teams working around the clock to explore the ancient station. What they found astonished them. The station had belonged to a species called the progenitors, though humanity only learned that name from fragmentary records. The progenitors had been ancient beyond comprehension, and their technology reflected it. They had mastered manipulation of space-time itself, creating devices that could bend gravity, compress distance, and tap into energy sources that shouldn't exist according to council physics. More importantly, they had mapped the veiled reaches in extraordinary detail. The gravitational anomalies that made navigation so dangerous weren't random. They were the remnants of ancient progenitor engineering projects, megastructures so vast that they warped space-time itself. And the dark matter storms weren't natural phenomena. They were defensive systems still active after tens of thousands of years, protecting something deeper in the reaches. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had become the chief scientist studying the station, made the breakthrough that would change humanity's fate. She was examining the station's propulsion systems when she noticed something odd. The gravitational anomalies that made the veiled reaches so dangerous could be used as a form of faster-than-light travel, far superior to anything the Council possessed. Council jump gates worked by creating artificial wormholes between 2 fixed points. They were reliable but slow, and they required massive infrastructure at both ends. The progenitor technology was different. It used the natural gravitational fluctuations of the reaches to slingshot ships across vast distances, almost instantaneously. Sarah spent 6 months developing a working prototype. The first test flight nearly killed the crew when the ship materialized inside a small asteroid. The second test worked perfectly, transporting a probe across 50 light-years in less than a minute. The third test took Sarah herself on a journey that should have taken months. She traveled from the derelict station to the forward elements of the Exodus fleet in 3 hours. When she emerged from the test ship, shaking but triumphant, she knew humanity had found their advantage. The Council had exiled them to a prison. Humanity was turning that prison into a fortress. The Exodus continued, but now with purpose and direction. The forward fleet had found Sanctum, a massive rogue planet that orbited 3 dim stars in a complex gravitational dance. The planet was tidally locked, with one side facing the stars and the other in perpetual darkness. But the twilight band between them was habitable. More importantly, Sanctum sat at a gravitational nexus point, making it ideal for the new faster-than-light system Sarah had developed. 15 years after leaving Council space, humanity established its first permanent settlement in the Veiled Reaches. They called it New Hope, a city of 5 million people built into the rocky canyons of Sanctum's twilight zone. Above the planet, shipyards took shape, constructing new vessels using progenitor technology, combined with human innovation. The Exodus fleet continued spreading throughout the Reaches. Every week, new colonies were established. Research teams explored more ancient ruins, finding more progenitor technology. Engineering crews built networks of habitats and stations connected by the new travel system. Humanity didn't just survive in the Veiled Reaches, they thrived. Cut off from Council trade, they were forced to develop their own solutions to every problem. They couldn't import food, so they engineered new agricultural systems that could grow crops in low-gravity environments. They couldn't buy advanced medical equipment, so they developed organic mechanical hybrid systems that could regrow damaged organs. They couldn't purchase weapons from the galactic market, so they built their own, using principles learned from progenitor technology. The children born during the Exodus grew up knowing only this life. They had never seen Earth. They had never lived under Council rule. They knew only that their parents and grandparents had been exiled for being too dangerous, too innovative, too unwilling to accept limits. That knowledge shaped them. 20 years after the Exodus began, Fleet Admiral James Rodriguez stood on a viewing platform above New Hope and looked out at what humanity had built. The city had grown to 20 million people. The shipyards above the planet could construct a new vessel every day. And scattered throughout the Veiled Reaches, nearly 300 colony worlds housed humanity's growing population. "We've done well," said Director Chen Xiao, who stood beside him. She was old now, her hair white and her face lined with wrinkles, but her eyes were still sharp. "Better than I dared hope. When the Council passed their judgment, the Council thought they were sending us to die," James said. "They thought the Reaches would kill us. Instead, the Reaches made us stronger," Chen replied. "Out here, we had to innovate or perish. No Council regulations holding us back. No ancient species telling us what we could or couldn't research. Just survival and progress." James nodded. Below them, the city pulsed with life. And he could see the research towers where scientists worked on projects that would have been forbidden in Council space. He could see the military me's training a new generation of soldiers. He could see the spaceports where civilian ships launched every hour, carrying people and goods between the scattered colonies. "The question is," James said quietly, "what do we do now? We've survived the exile. We've built something new out here, but we can't stay hidden forever. Eventually the Council will notice us again." Chen smiled, a cold expression that reminded James why this woman had been chosen to lead humanity through its darkest hour. "Then we make sure that when they notice us, they see something they can't ignore, something they can't dismiss, something powerful enough that they'll never dare exile us again." "An empire," James said. "An empire," Chen agreed, "but not like the ones the Council knows. Not an empire built on conquest and subjugation. An empire built on innovation and determination. An empire that stretches across this entire region of space, using technology the Council doesn't understand and can't counter." She turned to look at James directly. "The Council wanted to get rid of humanity because we were dangerous and unpredictable. They wanted to preserve their ancient order, their comfortable stability. So, let's give them exactly what they feared. Let's become something the galaxy has never seen before." James felt a chill run down his spine. It wasn't fear, it was anticipation. The exodus had lasted 20 years so far, with 10 more years until the Council's deadline expired. 10 more years to build and grow and prepare. And then humanity would decide what came next. In the depths of space, in the dangerous regions the Council had abandoned, a new civilization was taking shape. It was human, but it was also something more. Forged in the fires of exile, tempered by the challenges of the veiled reaches, shaped by the ancient technology of species long dead, the Council had tried to remove a problem. Instead, they had created their own worst nightmare. And the clock was ticking. 50 years had passed since the Council exiled humanity to the ancient species that governed the galaxy. 50 years was barely a moment. Most had already forgotten about the troublesome humans who had been sent into the veiled reaches to die. But some remembered. Inquisitor Kesh of the Vin stood in his war chamber, studying the reports that had been filtering in over the past 6 months. The Vin were warriors by nature, their culture built on strength and conquest, but they were not stupid. Klesh had risen to the position of Inquisitor by being more than just a skilled fighter. He was a scholar, a strategist, and most importantly, someone who paid attention to details others missed. The details he was seeing now troubled him deeply. Read the latest report again. He ordered his aide, a younger Vin named Thresh, who served as his assistant and student. Thresh activated the holographic display. 3 weeks ago, a pirate fleet operating near the Veiled Reaches border went silent. 17 ships, all heavily armed, all experienced raiders. They were last seen entering an asteroid field on the edge of Council space, pursuing a merchant vessel. And Klesh prompted, though he had memorized every word of the report. Search teams found the pirate ships 5 days later. All 17 vessels were intact. No hull breaches, no signs of battle damage, but every crew member was dead. Medical analysis suggests they all died simultaneously from what appears to be massive neural trauma, as if their brains simply stopped working. Klesh said softly, "Yes, Inquisitor. The medical teams have no explanation. The ship's logs show nothing unusual. One moment the pirates were preparing to board the merchant vessel. The next moment they were all dead." Kalesh's 4 eyes narrowed. His 6 arms moved restlessly, a sign of deep thought. And the merchant vessel they were chasing disappeared. No trace of it in the system. Jumpgate records show no ship matching its description leaving through any of the nearby gates. "Show me the other incidents." Thresh changed the display. More reports appeared, each one more disturbing than the last. A Council patrol that vanished near the Reach's border. Their ships found months later drifting empty in deep space. Unidentified vessels detected moving through Council territory without triggering any jump gates. Impossible. According to known physics, encrypted transmissions picked up by Council monitoring stations using a code that no Council AI could break. And always the incidents clustered around the border of the Veiled Reaches. The Council leadership dismisses these as unrelated anomalies. Thresh said, "They say the Veiled Reaches are unstable, that strange things happen near gravitational anomalies. They refuse to authorize a full investigation. The Council leadership are old and comfortable." Kesh said, "They see only what they want to see. But I am Vin. My people understand that the greatest danger comes from the enemy you've forgotten about." He made his decision. "Prepare my personal ship. We're going to the Reaches." "Inquisitor, that's forbidden without Council authorization. If you're caught, then I'll deal with the consequences." Kalesh interrupted. "But I will not sit here while something dangerous grows at the edge of our territory. Someone needs to investigate. It might as well be me." 3 days later, Kalesh's ship crossed into the Veiled Reaches. He brought only a small crew, volunteers, who understood the risk they were taking. Going into the Reaches violated Council law. If they died out here, no one would come looking for them. The first week was uneventful. They found what Kesh expected: gravitational anomalies, dark matter storms, the occasional derelict from some ancient civilization. It was dangerous space, but manageable if you were careful. The second week, they found something that changed everything. "Inquisitor, we're picking up energy signatures," the ship's sensor officer reported. "Multiple sources. They don't match any known technology in our database." "Show me." The display lit up with dozens of points of light. They were spread across a vast area of space, connected by what appeared to be some kind of network, stations, habitats, ships moving between them, using a travel method that made no sense according to Council physics. "There's a civilization here," Kesh whispered. "An entire civilization in the reaches. Could it be survivors from one of the extinct species?" Thresh asked. "No. Look at the construction methods, the materials. This technology is recent. Within the last few decades." Kesh felt his pulse quicken. "It's them. It's the humans." "Impossible," Thresh said. "The Council sent them here to die. They couldn't have survived, let alone built all of this." "Never underestimate an enemy," Kesh said, remembering an old Vin proverb, especially one you've humiliated and left for dead. They moved carefully through the outer edges of human space, scanning everything they could without getting too close. What they found exceeded Kalesh's worst fears. Humanity hadn't just survived, they had transformed. The technology signatures they detected were completely different from what humans had used 50 years ago. More advanced, more efficient, based on principles that seemed to violate several fundamental laws of Council physics. The ships they glimpsed moving through the void didn't use jump gates or conventional drives. They seemed to slide through space itself, appearing and disappearing in ways that made tracking them impossible. "We need to get closer," Kesh decided. "I need to see one of their colonies up close." "That's extremely dangerous," Thresh warned. "If they have detection systems we can't understand, they might have already spotted us." "A risk we must take. Choose a small colony, something that won't be heavily defended." They approached a moon orbiting a gas giant, where scans showed a small human settlement of perhaps 500,000 people. Kesh kept his ship's stealth systems active, using every trick he knew to avoid detection. They were within visual range when the communication came. "Vin vessel, please power down your weapons and identify yourself." The voice spoke perfect Vin language, which was concerning in itself. Few humans had learned Vin. "This is Lieutenant Commander Jessica Torres, of the Eternal Ascendancy. You are in violation of our territory." Kesh felt his heart skip a beat. Eternal Ascendi. When had humans formed an empire? "I am Inquisitor Kalesh, of the Galactic Council," he transmitted back. "I am here on an investigative mission. The Council has no authority in the Veiled Reaches," the voice replied. "They exiled us from their space. We did not grant them access to ours. However, you came alone, not with a fleet. That suggests curiosity, rather than aggression. We will allow you to land and meet with our representatives. You accept?" Kesh looked at Thresh. His aide's expression showed concern, but also curiosity. They had come this far. Turning back now would gain them nothing. "I accept," Kalesh said. The landing was smooth, guided by automated systems, far more sophisticated than anything the Council used. Kesh emerged from his ship to find a delegation waiting for him on a proper landing platform. The humans looked different from how he remembered. Some had visible cybernetic implants. Others had eyes that seemed to glow faintly with inner light. All of them moved with a confidence and purpose that spoke of a people who had overcome impossible odds. Lieutenant Commander Torres stepped forward. She was a tall woman with silver hair and those strange glowing eyes. "Welcome to Sanctuary 7, Inquisitor. I apologize for the secrecy, but we've had to be careful about our existence becoming known to the Council for 50 years. Kish asked. "You've been hiding for 50 years. "We're not hiding," Torres corrected. "Building, learning, becoming something more than what we were when the Council cast us out." She gestured to the colony around them. "Come, let me show you what humanity has accomplished." What Kalesh saw over the next 3 days shook his understanding of what was possible. The humans had found ancient technology in the reaches, technology from species called the progenitors. They had studied it, reverse engineered it, and combined it with their own innovations to create something entirely new. Their cities were partially biological buildings that grew and adapted to their inhabitants' needs. Their ships used gravitational manipulation for faster-than-light travel that was both faster and more efficient than Council jump gates. Their weapons could disable electronics from a distance, or worse, could target biological systems directly. That explained the dead pirates. Their brains had been overloaded by a neural weapon that left no physical trace. But it was the people themselves that disturbed Kalesh most. Many humans had undergone modifications that blurred the line between biological and mechanical. Some had enhanced their cognitive abilities with neural implants. Others had improved their physical capabilities with cybernetic limbs or bioengineered muscles. A few had taken it even further, becoming something that was no longer quite human. "You're creating a post-biological civilization," Kesh said to Taurus, as they watched workers assembling a new ship in orbit. "We're creating whatever we need to be to survive and thrive," Torres replied. "The Council wanted us gone because we refused to accept their limits. Out here, there are no limits, except the ones we impose on ourselves, and we've decided to impose very few. This is dangerous." Kalesh said the Council has rules about biological and cybernetic modification for good reasons. Species that go too far down that path lose themselves. They become something other than what they were. "Good," Torres said simply. "What we were got us exiled and nearly killed. What we're becoming will ensure that never happens again." On the fourth day, Kalesh met with someone called Imperator Marcus Reeves. The title alone was concerning. Imperator suggested military authority, possibly dictatorial rule, but Reeves turned out to be a middle-aged man with an easy smile and thoughtful eyes. Inquisitor Reeves greeted him. "I hope Lieutenant Commander Torres has made you comfortable. It's rare that we have visitors from Council space." "I'm here without authorization," Kesh admitted. "The Council doesn't know about your existence. Most of them think you all died decades ago." "We know," Reeves said. "We've been monitoring Council space carefully. We have agents throughout the galactic community, humans who look and act normal, but who report back to us about Council activities." "Spies," Kesh said flatly. "Information gatherers," Reeves corrected. "We're not planning to attack the Council, Inquisitor. We simply want to make sure they don't attack us first, after what happened 50 years ago. Can you blame us for being cautious?" Kalesh couldn't. If his people had been exiled like this, they would have spent every moment planning revenge. The fact that humans seemed more interested in building than destroying was actually reassuring. "What do you want me to do with this information?" Kesh asked. "I assume you didn't welcome me here just to show off your accomplishments. We want you to make a choice," Reeves said. "You can return to Council space and report what you've found. The Council will mobilize their fleets, try to destroy us before we become too strong. Many will die on both sides, and the outcome is far from certain. Or Kesh prompted, "or you can join us. Share your knowledge. Help us prepare for the day when we reveal ourselves to the Council on our own terms. We're building something new here, Inquisitor. Something better than the stagnant empire the Council has maintained for 10,000 years. We're not just humans anymore. We're the eternal ascendancy, and we welcome all species who want to grow beyond their limitations." Kalesh felt torn. His loyalty to the Council ran deep. He had served them for over 2 centuries. But he also saw the truth in Reeves' words. The Council was stagnant. They had maintained the same structures, the same rules, the same hierarchies for millennia. They punished innovation and rewarded conformity. The humans offered something different. Dangerous, yes, unpredictable certainly, but also vibrant with possibility. "I need time to think," Kesh said. "Of course," Reeves replied. "Take all the time you need. But I should warn you, if you return to Council space and report what you found, you'll become a target. We have too much invested in our secrecy to let it be compromised easily." It was a threat, delivered politely, but unmistakably. Kesh appreciated the honesty. He spent a week in human space, touring more colonies, meeting more people, learning more about what humanity had become. He saw universities, where students from a dozen species studied together, all of them refugees or volunteers who had left Council space to join the Ascendancy. He saw research facilities pushing the boundaries of science, in ways that would have been forbidden under Council law. He saw a military that was smaller than he expected, but equipped with technology that would terrify the Council. And he saw hope, real hope, the kind that came from people who had been broken and rebuilt themselves stronger. In the end, Kalesh made his decision. He sent one message back to Council space, a heavily encrypted transmission to a few trusted contacts. In it, he warned them that humanity had survived and grown strong. He advised caution and preparation. He suggested that the Council's greatest mistake had been exiling humanity, rather than finding a way to coexist with them. Then he destroyed his ship's navigation logs and formally requested asylum in the Eternal Ascendancy. Imperator Reeves granted it immediately. Welcome, Inquisitor. Or should I say, welcome, Ambassador Kalesh, because you're going to help us prepare for the day when the Council can no longer ignore us. Kesh nodded. He had made his choice. For better or worse, he was now part of humanity's grand experiment. And somewhere deep in Council space, his warning messages were being read by people who would have to decide what to do about the Empire growing in the void. The deeper Kalesh traveled into human space, the more questions he had. The technology was impressive. Yes, the civilization they had built was remarkable, but there was something else. Something the humans weren't telling him. He could sense it in the way certain conversations would stop when he entered a room, the way some facilities were marked as off-limits, even to him. "You're keeping secrets," he said to Imperator Reeves during one of their regular meetings. They had become almost friendly over the months since Kalesh's arrival, but there was still a wall between them. Reeves didn't deny it. "We're keeping one very large secret, and I've been debating whether to share it with you. It's dangerous knowledge, Kalesh, the kind that changes how you see the universe." "I'm not a child to be protected from difficult truths," Kesh replied, his 6 arms crossing in a gesture of determination. Reeves studied him for a long moment. "No, you're not. And you've proven your loyalty to us over these past months. Very well. Come with me. There's something beneath Sanctum that you need to see." They descended deep into the planet's crust. Past the habitation levels, past the industrial zones, past the military installations. The elevator seemed to go on forever, dropping through kilometers of rock. Kalesh's inner ears told him they were far below the surface now, deeper than any normal facility would need to be. The elevator finally stopped in a massive cavern that had been carved out of solid rock, but it wasn't empty. In the center of the cavern sat a structure that made Kalesh's breath catch in his throat. It was a perfect sphere, 30 meters in diameter, hovering a meter above the floor without any visible support. Its surface was covered in symbols that hurt to look at, geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. The air around it hummed with barely contained energy. "What is this?" Kalesh whispered. "This is a progenitor archive," Reeves said. "We found it 7 years after the Exodus began. It's been the source of most of our technological advances, but more importantly, it's been the source of a terrible truth about the Galactic Council." Reeves gestured, and the sphere responded. Images began to appear in the air around them. Holographic displays showing events from millions of years ago. Kalesh watched, his 4 eyes wide with shock as the archive revealed its secrets. The progenitors had been real, a species so advanced that they made the current Galactic Council look like children, playing with simple tools. They had mastered control over space-time itself, could manipulate matter at the quantum level, and had achieved a form of existence that transcended physical bodies. They had spread across the entire galaxy, building wonders that defied imagination. But then, something had gone wrong. "The higher dimensions," Reeves explained as the images shifted to show something that Kish's mind struggled to comprehend. "The progenitors discovered that reality has more dimensions than we can perceive. And in those dimensions, there are entities, beings of pure energy and consciousness, that exist beyond our understanding of physics." The images showed the progenitors making contact with these entities. At first, it seemed like a triumph. Knowledge flowed from the higher beings to the progenitors, accelerating their advancement even further. But then the entities began to demand things, sacrifices, changes. The progenitors found themselves becoming something other than what they had been. Some of them transcended. Reeves continued. They left physical reality entirely and joined the higher dimensional entities, but others fought back. They realized that transcendence wasn't evolution, it was consumption. The higher entities were feeding on the progenitors, absorbing their consciousness and knowledge. The images showed a war unlike anything Kalesh had imagined. The progenitors fought against beings that could manipulate reality itself. Entire star systems were destroyed. Regions of space were torn apart. The galaxy itself was damaged by the conflict. "The progenitors lost," Reeves said quietly. They were too far gone. Too many of them had already transcended and couldn't be saved. So, the survivors did the only thing they could. They created a failsafe. The images showed the creation of the Galactic Council, not as a natural evolution of galactic civilization, but as a deliberate containment system. The progenitors had gathered representatives from younger species, given them enough technology to maintain order, and programmed them with a simple directive: prevent any species from advancing too far, too fast. The Council isn't a government, Kesh said slowly, horror dawning on him. Yes, Reeves confirmed. Every rule, every restriction, every limitation the Council places on species advancement, they're all designed to keep us from attracting the attention of the higher dimensional entities. The progenitors knew that if another species reached their level of advancement, the entities would notice again. So they created a system to keep everyone in perpetual adolescence. Kesh felt his world crumbling. He had served the Council for centuries, believing in their mission to maintain peace and order. And all along they had been nothing more than jailers, keeping the entire galaxy trapped in a prison of enforced stagnation. Does the Council leadership know? He asked. Some of them must, Reeves said. The oldest members, like Architect Prime Velnoth, they've been on the Council for thousands of years. They must know the truth, but they keep it secret because they believe the cage is necessary. Better to keep everyone safe and limited than risk attracting the entities again. And you, Kesh turned to face Reeves directly. You know about the entities. You know what happened to the progenitors. So why are you advancing so rapidly? Aren't you afraid of attracting their attention? Reeves smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. We're terrified, but we also made a choice. The Council's approach is to hide and hope the entities never notice us. Our approach is to prepare for the day when they do, because they will eventually. Entities that can perceive higher dimensions aren't going to miss an entire galaxy full of potential hosts forever. He gestured at the archive. We've been studying everything the progenitors left behind, learning from their mistakes. They failed because they transcended as individuals, each one vulnerable to the entity's influence. We're trying something different. What do you mean? Kalesh asked. Come with me. There's more to show you. They left the archive chamber and traveled to another facility, this one on the surface of Sanctum. It was a research complex, heavily guarded and shielded against all forms of scanning. Inside, Kesh found laboratories filled with equipment he didn't recognize, and scientists working on projects he couldn't understand. Dr. Sarah Kim met them at the entrance. She was old now, in her 80s, but her eyes were still sharp and intelligent. Ambassador Kalesh, she greeted him. The Imperator says, you're ready to learn about Project Anchor. What is Project Anchor? Kalesh asked. Sarah led them to an observation window overlooking a vast chamber. Inside, suspended in fields of energy, were hundreds of people. They appeared to be sleeping, their bodies perfectly still. The progenitors failed, because when they transcended, they lost their connection to baseline reality. Sarah explained, they became pure consciousness, vulnerable to the entities. We're trying to maintain that connection. Some of us are enhancing ourselves, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with biology and technology, but others are staying human, baseline human, as anchors. I don't understand, Kalish admitted. Think of it like a tree, Sarah said. The branches reach up toward the sky, toward transcendence, but the roots dig deep into the earth, into baseline reality. Both are necessary. Without roots, the tree falls over. We're creating a civilization that exists in multiple states simultaneously. Some of us transcending, exploring higher dimensions and advanced states of consciousness. Others remaining firmly planted in physical reality, keeping us grounded. She pointed to the sleeping figures. These people are our anchors. They're quantum entangled with our most advanced researchers. When someone pushes too far into transcendence, the anchors pull them back. It's like a safety rope for climbers. It allows us to explore dangerous territory without the risk of losing ourselves entirely. Kalesh stared at the chamber in amazement. This is insane. You're playing with forces you don't fully understand. Yes, Sarah agreed. But the alternative is to stay in the Council's cage forever. And that's not survival. That's just a slower form of death. The universe is full of dangers, Kesh. The entities are real, but so are we. And we have something the progenitors didn't. What's that? We know what went wrong for them. We have their warning, their sacrifice, and we're using it to build something better. Not transcendence as escape, not advancement as abandonment of what we were, but evolution while maintaining our essential identity. Over the following weeks, Kalesh learned more about humanity's grand experiment. He met people who existed in multiple states of consciousness. Simultaneously, he saw technology that allowed minds to interface directly with quantum computers without losing their sense of self. He witnessed experiments in higher dimensional perception that would have terrified the Council, but fascinated him. But he also saw the risks. Some test subjects had lost themselves despite the anchoring system. Others had reported contact with something in the higher dimensions, beings that noticed when humans reached too far. The entities were real, and they were watching. One night, Kalesh stood on a balcony overlooking New Hope and tried to process everything he had learned. The Galactic Council was a cage. The progenitors had built it to protect younger species from dangers they couldn't comprehend, and humanity was deliberately trying to break out of that cage, fully aware of the risks. It was either the bravest thing he had ever witnessed or the most foolish. Reeves joined him on the balcony. "I know what you're thinking," the Imperator said. "You're wondering if we're making the same mistake the progenitors made, if our arrogance will doom us the way it doomed them." "Yes," Kesh admitted, "we might be," Reeves said simply. "This could all end in disaster. The entities might consume us. We might lose ourselves to transcendence despite our precautions. We might attract attention from things worse than what destroyed the progenitors. But we're going to try anyway, because the one thing we can't do is nothing." "Why not?" Kesh asked. "Why not accept the Council's protection? Live within their limits? It's kept the galaxy safe for 10,000 years because it's not really living," Reeves replied. "It's just existing. The Council has maintained the same civilizations, the same technologies, the same structures for millennia. Nothing changes, nothing grows. Everyone just goes through the motions, afraid to take risks, afraid to push boundaries, afraid to become more than what they are. That's not life. That's stasis." He looked up at the stars visible above them, hundreds of points of light in the darkness. "We never have. It's what got us exiled, and it's what's going to save us. Because if the entities do come for us, we'll fight. We'll adapt. We'll find a way to survive. That's what humans do." Kalesh felt something shift in his understanding. He had thought humanity's advancement was reckless, dangerous, foolish. But maybe it was necessary. Maybe the only way to survive in a universe full of predators was to become strong enough that predators thought twice about attacking. "What happens when you reveal yourselves to the Council?" he asked. "Because you will eventually. You can't stay hidden forever." "We'll offer them a choice," Reeves said. "Join us in evolution, or stay in their preserve of enforced safety. Some will join, some won't. Either way, the galaxy is going to change. The progenitor's cage is breaking, Kalesh. Not because we're destroying it out of spite, but because it was never meant to hold us forever. The progenitors hoped that younger species would eventually grow strong enough to face the entities without being destroyed. We're trying to be that species. We have. And if you're wrong," Kalesh asked. "If the entities come and you can't stop them," Reeves smiled, "then at least we'll die free. Better to burn bright and fast than to dim slowly in a cage. That's the human way. Always has been. Always will be." Kalesh looked out at the city of New Hope, at the ships moving through the void above it, at the constellation of human colonies stretching across the veiled reaches. An empire built by exiles. A civilization created from desperation and determination. A species that refused to accept limits, even when those limits were designed to protect them. He made his final decision in that moment, not just to stay with humanity, but to believe in their vision. It was dangerous. It was probably foolish, but it was also magnificent in its audacity. "Count me in," he said to Reeves. "Whatever happens next, I want to be part of it." Reeves clasped his shoulder. "Welcome to the eternal ascendancy, Ambassador. Now, let's prepare for the day when we introduce ourselves to the galaxy." In the darkness above them, in dimensions beyond normal perception, things stirred and took notice. The humans were reaching upward again, just as the progenitors had. The entities remembered what happened last time. They were curious to see if this young species would make the same mistakes, or if they would find a new way forward. 130 years after the exile, the Galactic Council was facing a crisis unlike any in its 10,000-year history. It started small, barely noticeable at first. A few minor species began leaving the Council, declaring independence, and vanishing into the void. The Council's leadership dismissed it as insignificant. Species left occasionally. It was rare, but not unprecedented. But then larger species began to leave. The Methodian Chorus, a civilization of 500 worlds, announced they were withdrawing from Council space. The Xanthid Collective, a powerful military force, declared they would no longer follow Council regulations. Within 6 months, over 50 species had formally left the Council, taking with them millions of ships and trillions of citizens. Architect Prime Velnath called an emergency session of the Council leadership. The ancient crystalline being had been in power for thousands of years, and in all that time, it had never felt the fear that gripped it now. "Where are they going?" Velnath demanded. 50 species don't just disappear. They must be going somewhere. We've tracked some of them, reported Intelligence Director, a four-armed Vin, who had taken over after Kalesh's disappearance. They're heading toward the Veiled Reaches. All of them. The region we exiled the humans to over a century ago. Silence fell over the chamber. The Council members looked at each other with growing dread. "The humans," someone whispered. "The humans are still alive. More than alive," Thane continued. "Our intelligence suggests they've built something in the Reaches, something large. We've intercepted communications, fragments of data, reports from traders who claim to have done business with a civilization called the Eternal Ascendancy. Send a fleet," Warlord Crush growled. "If the humans have survived, we crush them before they become a threat." "We've tried," Thane said quietly. 3 months ago, we sent a battle group of 50 ships to investigate the Reaches. They never returned. 2 weeks ago, we sent a larger fleet, 200 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. We received 1 transmission before they went silent. "Show us," Velnath commanded. The transmission played. It showed the bridge of a Council dreadnought, alarms blaring, crew members shouting in panic. Then a voice, calm and human, cut through the chaos. "Council ships, you are in violation of Ascendancy space. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted to the border. This is your only warning." The Council captain's voice responded, full of arrogance. "We don't recognize your authority. The Council rules this galaxy. Stand down or be destroyed." There was a pause. Then the human voice spoke again. "Sadder now, so be it." The transmission showed the dreadnought systems simply stopping. Engines went offline. Weapons powered down. Life support systems cut out. Every electronic system on every ship in the fleet failed simultaneously. And then the transmission ended. "They're all dead," Thane said. 200 ships, 50,000 crew members, all killed without a single shot being fired. Our recovery teams found the fleet drifting in space a week later. Every electronic system was completely fried. No survivors. Velnath felt something it hadn't experienced in millennia. Genuine fear. What kind of weapon can do that? "Well, we don't know," Day admitted. "But we do know this. Humanity has advanced far beyond where they were when we exiled them. Whatever they found in the Reaches, whatever they've built, it's made them more powerful than any single Council species. Possibly more powerful than all of us combined." "One? That's impossible," Kresh protested. 130 years. No species advances that quickly. "Humans do," said a new voice. Everyone turned. Standing in the entrance to the chamber was a figure they all recognized, though he had been gone for decades. Kalesh walked into the room, his 6 arms spread in a gesture of peace. "You're alive," Velnath said, shock evident in its voice. "We thought you were lost in the Reaches." "I was found in the Reaches," Kalesh corrected. "By humanity. I've spent the last 70 years living among them, learning from them, and helping them prepare for this moment. I've come as their ambassador, Architect Prime. They sent me to deliver a message." "You're a traitor," Kresh snarled, reaching for his weapons. "Peace," Velnath commanded. "Let him speak." Kalesh activated a holographic projector. Images filled the chamber, showing human cities, ships, technology, and most shocking of all, representatives from dozens of species living and working alongside humans. The eternal ascendancy is real, Kesh said. It consists of 3,000 human worlds and another 5,000 worlds inhabited by species who have left the Council to join humanity. Total population over 5 trillion beings. Military strength unknown, but sufficient to defend against any force the Council could send. Technological level far beyond anything in Council space. How? Velnoth whispered. How did they achieve this? They found the truth, Kalesh said. The truth you've been hiding for 10,000 years. They discovered what the progenitors were, and what really destroyed them. They found out that the Council isn't a government. It's a cage designed to keep younger species from advancing too far. The chamber erupted in chaos. Council members shouted denials, demanded explanations, accused Kalesh of lying. But Velnath's silence was more telling than any words could have been. It's true, the Architect Prime finally said. The Council was created by the progenitors to prevent any species from attracting the attention of higher dimensional entities. Everything we've done, every rule we've enforced, every limitation we've placed on advancement, it was all to protect the galaxy from a threat you cannot imagine. And you never told us, Kalesh said. You let entire civilizations stagnate for millennia, convinced them it was for their own good, all while hiding the real reason. The humans discovered the truth, and they made a different choice. They chose to advance anyway, to prepare for the entities rather than hide from them. They'll doom us all, Kush said. Or they'll save us all, Kish countered. That remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The old order is ending. Humanity is coming. And they're bringing change with them. The Imperator arrived 3 days later. The human fleet emerged from the veiled reaches in a way that defied all understanding. Ships simply appeared in Council space, materializing out of nowhere without using jump gates or any recognizable form of faster-than-light travel. There were thousands of them, ranging from small scouts to massive vessels that dwarfed the Council's largest dreadnoughts. But it was the flagship that drew everyone's attention. The ship that appeared directly above the Council's central station was unlike anything they had ever seen. It seemed to exist in multiple places at once, its outline shifting and flickering, as if it couldn't quite settle into normal three-dimensional space. The Imperator's message was broadcast simultaneously to every communication device in Council space. People of the Galactic Council, I am Imperator Marcus Chen, leader of the Eternal Ascendancy. My grandmother, Director Chen Zhao, stood in your chamber 130 years ago and listened as you exiled humanity for the crime of refusing to stagnate. You sent us into the veiled reaches to die. Instead, we built an empire. The transmission showed images of the Ascendancy, cities that blended organic and technological design in ways that looked like art, ships that could fold space itself, and most importantly, citizens from hundreds of species living together in harmony and prosperity. We didn't come here for revenge, the Imperator continued. We came to offer you a choice. The Council was built on a lie, the lie that safety requires stagnation. We offer a different vision. Advancement through courage, growth through innovation, survival through adaptation. We invite all species, all individuals, all beings who want more than the limited existence the Council offers to join us. We have technologies to share, knowledge to offer, and an empire to build. But we also respect those who wish to remain within the Council's protection. Velnath's response was immediate. You speak of choice, but you threaten our entire way of life. The entities are real. The danger is real. If you advance too far, you'll attract their attention and doom us all. The entities are already watching, the Imperator replied calmly. We've made contact with them, or rather, they've made contact with us. And yes, they're dangerous, but they're not all powerful. They're beings from higher dimensions, but that doesn't make them gods. It makes them different. And we've learned how to exist in their presence without being consumed. The transmission showed something that made several Council members cry out in shock. Humans working with entities, beings of pure energy and impossible geometry, communicating across dimensional boundaries, learning from each other rather than destroying each other. The progenitors failed because they tried to transcend as individuals. The Imperator explained, each one became vulnerable to the entity's influence. We've taken a different approach. We exist in multiple states simultaneously. Some of us have transcended. Yes, we've pushed into higher dimensions, enhanced our consciousness, become something more than baseline human. But others have remained firmly rooted in physical reality, creating a network of quantum-entangled consciousness that spans our entire empire. We call it the eternal ascendancy, because we exist across multiple states of being. We're simultaneously physical and transcendent, biological and post-biological, individual and collective. We're human, but we're also more than human. And we're stable in a way the progenitors never achieved. Velnoth listened with growing horror and fascination. We're playing with forces we're learning to comprehend. The Imperator corrected. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, we've had losses, but we're making progress. And more importantly, we're not running from the future. We're preparing for it. The Imperator's image shifted, and suddenly he was standing on the bridge of his ship, surrounded by a crew that included humans, Vin, Methodians, and a dozen other species. This is what we offer, a civilization where advancement is encouraged, not restricted, where innovation is celebrated, not feared, where all beings can reach their full potential, rather than being kept in perpetual childhood. Join us, and help build something greater than what came before. And if we refuse, Velnoth asked, then you remain in council space, protected by the rules and structures the progenitors built. The Imperator said, we're not here to conquer. We're not here to destroy. We had my 7. We had not here to destroy. We're simply here to offer an alternative. Some species will join us. Others will stay with you. The galaxy is large enough for both visions to exist. But understand this. The old order is ending whether you accept it or not. The progenitors built a cage to protect you from the entities. We're offering to teach you how to face them. Instead, one path keeps you safe, but limited. The other path offers growth, but risk. The choice is yours. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed. Billions of beings chose to leave council space and join the ascendancy. Entire species voted to abandon the council's protection and embrace humanity's vision of advancement. The council's economy collapsed as superior ascendancy technology flooded the market. Trade routes shifted, power structures crumbled. But not everyone left. Many species chose to remain within the council's protection, valuing safety over growth. The architect Prime Velnoth and its supporters maintained control over roughly half of what had been council space, creating a preserve of pre-transcendent civilization where the old rules still applied. The galaxy split into 2 civilizations, the Council's Preserve, where advancement was carefully controlled, and the entities were kept at bay through enforced limitation, and the Eternal Ascendancy, where beings pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Fully aware of the risks, but unwilling to live in a cage, Kesh stood on a balcony of the Ascendi's new diplomatic station, watching ships from a 100 species arrive and depart. Beside him, Imperator Marcus Chen reviewed reports from the frontier worlds, where humanity was establishing its first transdimensional colonies. Do you think we made the right choice? Kesh asked. Some of my people see you as saviors. Others see you as destroyers of the old order. We're both, Marcus replied. That's the nature of change. We're destroying what was to build what could be. Whether that's right or wrong depends on what we do next, and the entities. Kish asked. You said you've made contact with them. What do they want? They're curious. Marcus said the progenitors tried to fight them to resist their influence, and it destroyed both species. We're trying something different. We're learning from them, while maintaining our independence. It's a delicate balance. He pointed up at the stars out there beyond normal space. We're building colonies that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Cities where the buildings shift between realities. Ships that can travel through higher dimensions. People who can perceive realities you and I can barely imagine. We're becoming something the galaxy has never seen before. And if you fail, Kalesh pressed, if the entities consume you, the way they consumed the progenitors, then at least we tried, Marcus said. The Council's approach was to hide and hope. Our approach is to grow strong enough that we can face whatever comes. One way leads to safety and stagnation. The other leads to risk and possibility. I know which one I prefer." He turned to face Kalesh directly. "Your people have a saying, the warrior who never risks, death never truly lives. That's what humanity learned in the Veiled Reaches. We were sent there to die. But instead, we discovered how to truly live. Now we're offering that same choice to the galaxy." Kalesh nodded slowly. Below them, a ship departed for the frontier, carrying colonists who would help establish humanity's transdimensional empire. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was probably going to get them all killed, but it was magnificent. Somewhere in the darkness between dimensions, the entities watched and waited. They had destroyed the progenitors for reaching too far. But these humans were different. They weren't trying to escape physical reality through transcendence. They were trying to exist in multiple realities simultaneously, maintaining their core identity while expanding into new forms of existence. It was novel. It was unexpected, and the entities were curious to see if it would work. The Council had tried to exile humanity to protect the galaxy. Instead, they had created exactly what the progenitors had hoped for. A species brave enough to face the entities, smart enough to learn from past mistakes, and adaptable enough to find a new path forward. The eternal ascendancy stretched across normal space, higher dimensions, and multiple possible futures. It was an empire that existed outside of time, a civilization that transcended the limitations of three-dimensional reality. The exile had been meant as humanity's end. Instead, it became their genesis, the beginning of an empire whose power truly stretched across eternity. And in the void, both council members and entities watched to see what this audacious young species would become. The humans had been cast out for refusing to accept limits. Now they were redefining what was possible. The future was uncertain. The risks were enormous. But one thing was clear. The galaxy would never be the same again. The cage was broken. The future was open. And humanity, along with all those who chose to join them, was reaching for the stars and beyond.